The wedding that never happened. I'm Natalie Warren, 34 years old. I own Sapphire Luxury Hotels and Elite Catering. My brother James and I supported each other through our parents' divorce. We built an unbreakable bond. When he got engaged, I happily offered $65,000 for his dream wedding venue. Then last week, one phone call from the wedding planner shattered my heart completely. If you're watching this video, let me know where you're from in the comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And stay until the end. I'm about to tell you about a wedding disaster. It taught me everything about the true meaning of family and self-respect. Growing up together, James and I grew up in a modest Boston neighborhood. After our parents' divorce, we were bound together by an unbreakable bond. We only have each other, James would always say when we were kids. No matter what happens, I'll always be on your side. That promise carried us through high school and into adulthood. When I went to college to study hospitality management, my construction worker brother sent me money for textbooks every month. At 27, I took the biggest gamble of my life. I bought the historic Sapphire Grand Hotel. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. After 2 years of 18-hour workdays, I turned it profitable. By 30, I was running 5 luxury hotels and a catering company. James supported me every step of the way. "This is an investment in our future," he'd say. He used his construction connections to find reliable contractors. He helped with renovations on weekends for free. Meeting Melissa Blake, the turning point came when James met Melissa Blake. She was beautiful and sophisticated. She came from an old money family. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships across the Northeast. Her mother served on the boards of several cultural foundations. In American high society, marriage isn't just about love. It's about social status and economic connections. For Melissa's family, the right pedigree, education, and social network determined a person's worth as a marriage partner. Something fell off from our first meeting. "Oh, the sister who works at hotels. How lovely," Melissa said, looking down at me. It was like she was searching for someone more important. James was completely smitten. She introduced him to her upper-class friends. She took him to expensive restaurants where the waitstaff treated him like an outsider. Gradually, I began noticing changes in my brother. He started using phrases like "the right people" and "establishments of our caliber." He traded his beloved pickup truck for a luxury SUV he could barely afford. Our weekly dinners became monthly. Then they became rare. When Melissa joined us, she would openly check her watch and sigh when we talked about our childhood memories. Deep down, I felt my brother losing himself, but my desire for his happiness kept pushing those concerns away. Eleanor Blake's true nature, Melissa, and her mother Eleanor made no effort to hide their disdain for me. At James' birthday dinner, Eleanor grilled me about my little hotel business. "Well, anyone can succeed in America these days," she said with a cold smile, "though there's quite a difference between new money and established families." Melissa nodded in agreement. The service industry must be so difficult, dealing with complaints and cleaning dirty rooms. I could never do it. When I tried to explain the scale of my business, James cut me off. "Natalie has always been hardworking," he said, as if apologizing for my character. "Once she gets married and starts a family, she'll probably sell the business." In that moment, I realized how far my brother had drifted. Instead of being proud of my success, he was embarrassed by it. My achievements seemed to wound his male pride. The engagement and venue offer one autumn evening. James called with excitement in his voice. "She said yes, Nat. Melissa's going to marry me." I offered my heartfelt congratulations, but I felt uneasy in my chest. As I listened to James' elaborate proposal story, the extravagance didn't seem like the practical brother I knew. "We're hoping for a June wedding, but the venues Eleanor recommends are either booked or way over budget." "What about Sapphire Grand?" I suggested. "It holds 300 guests. The gardens are beautiful in June. After a pause, James promised to discuss it with Melissa. 3 days later, Melissa called to say she would consider Sapphire Grand. The venue tour was tense. Melissa and Eleanor walked through the ballroom with critical eyes. They whispered to each other constantly. "The space is adequate," Eleanor grudgingly admitted. "But the color scheme doesn't match Melissa's vision at all. Could you reupholster the chairs and replace the curtains?" I explained that completely reupholstering 200 chairs was unnecessary and expensive. Melissa turned to her mother. "Maybe we should keep looking at rosewood." Seeing James' pleading expression, I compromised. "Show me your Pinterest board. I'm sure we can find a creative solution." That compromise seemed to open the floodgates. For the next hour, Melissa detailed her dream wedding: imported flowers, custom lighting, champagne fountains, a 10-tier cake. The estimate exceeded $100,000. That's when I made a life-changing decision. "As a gift to you both, let me cover the $65,000 deposit for the venue and catering." James' eyes widened. "Nah, that's too generous. I can't accept that." But Melissa and Eleanor exchanged glances. "How wonderful," Melissa quickly replied. "We accept your generous offer." Excluded from planning once wedding planning began. I discovered I was being excluded from important decisions. Despite my substantial contribution and owning the venue, Melissa held catering tastings without inviting me. The wedding planner sent emails about ballroom renovations without copying me. When I asked James for an explanation, he looked uncomfortable. "Melissa just wants everything to be perfect. Since it's your business, she feels like there might be a conflict of interest if you're too involved." I tried to control my emotions and respect their process. But Melissa and Eleanor's demands became increasingly unreasonable. They wanted to remove the historic chandelier. They requested 15 different sample menus. They scheduled late-night appointments with my already overworked venue coordinator. My staff did their best out of loyalty to me, but I could see exhaustion on their faces. "You're a saint," my hotel manager Anthony said after a difficult meeting with Eleanor. "If she weren't your family, we would have shown her the door weeks ago." The missing invitation, the $65,000 deposit, was officially processed 6 months before the wedding. As the wedding approached, I expected to receive a formal invitation. 3 months passed. No invitation arrived in my mailbox. I casually mentioned it to James. "We sent out invitations last week. Melissa's handling the guest list. Yours should arrive soon." A month later, still no invitation. I told myself it must be a postal mix-up. Or maybe they assumed I didn't need a formal invitation since I was so involved with the venue. The first alarm bell rang when my cousin Dana called to thank me for James' wedding invitation. "The invitation is beautiful. The gold foil embossing must have been expensive. And the handwritten note from Melissa was such a thoughtful touch." My heart sank. I had received neither an invitation nor a handwritten note. When I checked with other family members, they had all received invitations weeks earlier. I directly checked the seating chart. My name was nowhere to be found. Family dinner truth 1 month before the wedding. My parents organized a family dinner at an upscale restaurant. James, Melissa, both sets of parents, and I attended. When wedding details came up, they spoke in vague terms. Every time I asked specific questions, they changed the subject. During the main course, Eleanor made a comment that chilled me to the bone. "The right atmosphere is so important at weddings," she said, swirling her wine glass. "The right guests, the right connections. A wedding isn't just a celebration. It's a statement of your social position." Melissa nodded in agreement. Some people just don't understand the social implications of high-class events. Running hotels is one thing. Understanding true elegance is something completely different. She looked directly at me. My father tried to defend me, but Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "There's a difference between serving the elite and being part of the elite, don't you think?" The implication was clear. In their eyes, I was the help, not a social equal. I expected James to defend me. Instead, he stared at his plate and avoided eye contact. The shocking truth: later that week, I received a disturbing message from a friend who worked at the country club. She had overheard Melissa laughing with her bridesmaids about the hotel girl who thinks she's invited to the wedding. She actually thinks she'll get to sit at the family table, Melissa reportedly said. I wouldn't want someone like her in prominent photos. But since she controls the venue, we need to keep her happy until the wedding day. When one bridesmaid asked about excluding someone who contributed $65,000, Melissa's answer froze my blood. That money's already spent. What's she going to do? Ask for it back? Besides, James says she's rich. She'll get over it quickly. The final confrontation that night, I confronted my brother. Am I invited to the wedding or not? Melissa seems to have other ideas. James let out a heavy sigh. Nat, it's complicated. Melissa and her mother have very specific ideas about the guest list. They're concerned about maintaining a certain atmosphere. An atmosphere that doesn't include your only sister. Your sister who donated $65,000 to the wedding. My voice shook with emotion. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, James went defensive. Melissa's family has important connections. This wedding could open doors for both of us. Since when do you care about important connections? What happened to the brother who said, we only have each other? People grow up, Natalie. People change. Maybe you should try growing up instead of clinging to the past. His words stabbed my heart like a dagger. I sent him one more heartfelt email. His response was brief and formal. Thanks for understanding. I'll talk to Melissa about the guest list situation. Days passed with no further contact. The fateful call on a Tuesday afternoon, 1 week before the wedding. An unknown number called. Is this Natalie Warren? A woman's professional voice asked. Yes, this is Victoria Hayes, wedding planner for the Warren Blake ceremony. I'm calling about the ceremony next Saturday at Sapphire Grand. My heart jumped. Yes, is there a problem with payment? Not exactly. I'm calling to inform you that the family has instructed me to cancel your invitation to the wedding. However, they would like to retain the deposit you provided. The world seemed to stop. I'm sorry, what? The family has decided to revise the guest list. Your attendance is no longer required, but they would like to use the deposit already paid to proceed with venue and catering arrangements as planned. Which family? Who made this decision? The instructions came from Ms. Blake and her mother. They said Mr. Warren was aware and in agreement. James had agreed to exclude me from the wedding while keeping my $65,000. The turning point, I took a deep breath. I felt a plan forming in my mind. Victoria, I need to confirm that I own Sapphire Grand and Elite Catering. I heard a sharp intake of breath on the other end. No, I wasn't aware of that relationship. Ms. Blake only introduced you as Mr. Warren's sister who contributed to the wedding funds. I see. In that case, I have a message for Ms. Blake and my brother. Of course. Tell them to cancel the entire wedding. Victoria gasped. But Ms. Warren, you don't have the authority to. Actually, I'm not the bride or groom, but I do own the venue, the catering company, and the hotel chain where out-of-town guests have reservations. While legal forfeiture of the full amount might be difficult, finding an alternative venue 10 days before the wedding is practically impossible. Plus, our contract includes emergency cancellation clauses for fraudulent behavior. The silence on the other end was deafening. Unless I receive a formal apology and a wedding invitation by 5 p.m. today, Sapphire Grand will not be available for their event. If they want to sue, go ahead. But good luck finding another venue in the meantime. Within 5 minutes, my phone started ringing. James, Melissa, Eleanor. I ignored them all. The ultimatum by 4:30 p.m., my office phone, cell phone, and email were flooded with messages. At exactly 4:55 p.m., chaos erupted in the hotel lobby. James arrived with Melissa and both sets of parents. I escorted them to a private conference room. This was no longer a family matter. It was a business dispute. The tension in the room was palpable. Melissa's face was red with tears. Eleanor's mouth was pressed into a thin line. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" James demanded as soon as the door closed. I remained calm and standing. I'm enforcing contract terms and finally standing up for myself. Melissa's father, Howard Blake, stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. Canceling a wedding with 10 days' notice. Actually, I can. Section 12 of the venue contract is very clear about this. It gives us the right to cancel events that violate our ethical standards or risk our reputation." "Ethical standards?" Eleanor scoffed, trying to exclude the venue owner from an event while keeping her financial contribution constitutes fraud. This potentially violates both ethical standards and law. I have conclusive evidence of fraudulent intent. The moment of truth, my mother stepped forward in confusion. "Natalie, what's happening? Why aren't you invited to your own brother's wedding?" I looked at James, giving him a chance to explain. He avoided eye contact and stared at the carpet. After uncomfortably long silence, James finally said, "This is a misunderstanding. Victoria must have confused the instructions." Victoria Hayes straightened up in the corner. "I followed Ms. Blake's instructions exactly. I was told Ms. Warren's invitation was rescinded, but the deposit should be retained." Howard Blake took out his cell phone. "This is absurd. I'm calling my lawyer right now. We'll sue for breach of contract." "Go ahead," I replied. However, the contract is extremely clear about cancellation rights under these circumstances. Plus, I have conclusive evidence of fraudulent intent against me. Family reactions. My father, who had been quiet for a long time, finally spoke. "James, is this true? Did you agree to exclude your sister from the wedding?" James looked trapped, his eyes darting between Melissa and me. "It's complicated," he mumbled. "Actually, it's very simple," I said. "Either I'm welcome to my brother's wedding as a complete and respected family member, or there will be no wedding at Sapphire Grand." Melissa burst into fresh tears. "You can't do this. Everything's arranged. Guests from Europe are arriving next week." "I understand that's inconvenient," I acknowledged. But it was also inconvenient to discover that my only brother decided I wasn't good enough to attend his wedding, despite my generous contribution. Howard looked thoughtful. "What exactly do you want, Ms. Warren?" "Respect," I answered simply. "A heartfelt apology and acknowledgement that what you planned was wrong. An assurance that I'll be treated as actual family at this event." My mother stood beside me. "I agree with Natalie. What you planned is shameful, James. I thought I raised you better." My brother's awakening something in my words seemed to penetrate the fog James had been living in. For the first time in months, I saw a glimpse of the real James in his eyes. "I didn't want to hurt you, Nat," he said quietly. "Yet you were going to ban me from the wedding while keeping my money. How did you think that would make me feel?" James had no answer. "Here's what's going to happen," I announced to the entire room. "I'll allow the wedding to proceed as scheduled, but under the following conditions. First, I receive formal written apologies from both the bride and groom for attempting to exclude me. Second, I receive respect as both a family member and business owner throughout all wedding events. Third, my $65,000 contribution is acknowledged in the wedding program. It should be recognized as a gift from a loving sister, not just a venue discount." Howard Blake nodded thoughtfully. "Given the circumstances, those conditions seem reasonable. The path to reconciliation after hesitation." James nodded. "Yes. And Nat, I'm sorry. I should never have let it go this far. It was a beginning, but I knew there was a long road ahead to rebuild broken trust." "Then the wedding will proceed as planned," I said, opening the conference room door to signal the meeting's end. Wedding day? Doubts. The wedding day arrived with perfect June weather. But early that morning, my phone rang. It was James. Nat, I couldn't sleep all night. Not only did Melissa not apologize for how she treated you, she said, now we'll finally be free of that troublesome sister. What am I doing? His voice was shaking. That's for you to decide, James. But is there really happiness worth betraying your true self? I realized I was embarrassed by your success instead of proud of it. Your achievements wounded my male pride. But you're my sister, my best friend, and you've always supported me. I can't forgive myself for forgetting that. After hanging up, I prayed he would make the right decision. Sapphire Grand was decorated with white roses and orchids. It had transformed into the flower-filled dream space Melissa had envisioned. As a family member, I sat in the front row of the ceremony. The music began and the procession started. James stood at the altar in his tuxedo, handsome but clearly nervous. When the wedding march played and Melissa appeared at the back of the hall on her father's arm, gasps of admiration rose from the guests. She was undeniably breathtaking in a custom gown that cost more than most people's cars. The ceremony proceeded as planned, until the minister reached the pivotal question. If anyone can show just cause why these two may not be lawfully joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. During the brief silence that followed, James looked directly at me. Our eyes met. I saw something shift in his expression. Clarity, determination, a return to himself. I have something to say, he announced in a voice steady enough for the crowd to hear. The crowd murmured in shock. Melissa froze beside him, her bouquet trembling. James, the minister prompted uncertainly. I can't do this, James said loud enough for everyone to hear. Not like this. Not when I'm not being true to myself or the values my sister and I were raised with. Gasps and whispers rippled through the audience. Melissa's face contorted with anger and humiliation. What are you doing? She hissed. James faced her directly. I'm sorry, Melissa. You're beautiful and accomplished. You'll make someone very happy someday. But that someone isn't me. I was trying to become someone I'm not to fit into your world. In the process, I nearly lost the person who's always been there for me. He looked at me again. For the first time in months, I saw my real brother's eyes. This wedding is canceled, he announced to the stunned crowd. I apologize for the inconvenience. Thank you for coming. The moment of catharsis, what followed was unimaginable chaos. Melissa dramatically collapsed into her mother's arms, wailing. Eleanor screamed about lawsuits and ruined reputations. Howard Blake was surprisingly calm, focusing on managing his wife and daughter's reactions. 300 guests sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what had happened. Relatives who had traveled from far away looked confused. Melissa's friends began filming this chaos on their phones. My brother walked straight to me, took my hand, and led me away from the chaos, out of the ballroom. In the quiet of my office, he finally let his emotions explode. I can't believe what I just did. Did you see their faces? Half laughing, half crying. I saw. That was quite an exit. I might lose everything, he admitted, trying to accept reality. Venue fees, florists, musicians, photographers, travel costs for out-of-town guests. Melissa's father will definitely sue. But the moment the minister asked that question, I knew I couldn't go through with it. All I could think about was how Melissa and her mother treated you, how they tried to exclude you while keeping your money. I realized that if I married her, I'd be endorsing their behavior. The real cost the following week. Reality hit hard. Lawsuits from the Blake family, damage claims from florists and photographers, travel expense claims from distant guests. James had to consider selling construction company assets. The local newspaper ran an article titled Sapphire Grand Wedding Chaos. On social media, videos filmed by Melissa's friends went viral. But James never spoke a word of regret. The cost is high, but the cost of living a false life would have been much higher, he said while signing legal documents. The process of reconciliation 3 days after the wedding cancellation James came to my office alone. Nat, I finally understand how much I hurt you during my time with Melissa. Instead of being proud of your success, I was embarrassed by it. Your achievements being greater than mine wounded my male pride. He continued through tears. But you're my sister, my best friend, and you've always supported me. I can't forgive myself for forgetting that. We talked for hours, honestly sharing our feelings. Rebuilding trust completely would take time, but it was the first step toward true reconciliation. Regarding the $65,000 deposit, after James formally apologized, I refunded half, $32,500. I kept the rest for actual preparation costs, but my feelings about it being a gift from the beginning never changed. New beginnings. A story of redemption. The non-wedding from the wedding happened several months ago. James and I resumed our Sunday brunch tradition, something we hadn't done since Melissa entered his life, sharing pancakes and coffee. He looked like himself for the first time in years. Eleanor Blake called yesterday. He mentioned casually. Melissa's dating a hedge fund manager. Apparently they met at a charity gala 2 weeks after our supposed wedding date. That was fast. James laughed. I'm not surprised. I think I was more of an accessory than a partner to her. A rugged, good-looking, successful contractor she could mold into a socially acceptable husband. And now? Now I'm dating someone new, he admitted with a shy smile. Remember Sarah from the city planning office? The one I always got along with when submitting permits. She called to check on me after hearing about the wedding. We ended up talking for hours. Sarah's wonderful. She's smart, kind, and she values the real you. That makes all the difference, James agreed. She wants to properly meet you too. I told her all about the amazing sister who saved me from the biggest mistake of my life. I felt warmth in my heart. The wounds caused by Melissa and her family would take time to heal. But James and I were rebuilding our bond, stronger and wiser than before. A new beginning 1 year later. I was giving a speech at the opening ceremony of my new hotel. Sapphire Grand welcomes people who understand true value and respect each other. In the audience, James and Sarah were smiling. In his eyes, I saw real pride for the first time in a long while. Sarah warmly squeezed my hand and said, "That was a wonderful speech." After the ceremony ended, James came to me. "Nat, you taught me something important. People are defined by the treatment they accept." I smiled back. No more words were needed. Under the night sky, in Sapphire Grand's gardens, new couples were taking photos, this time for weddings based on true love. Walking with my brother, I remembered the words we first promised each other. We only have each other. No matter what happens, I'll always be on your side. That promise had taken on deeper meaning after our trial. Have you ever stood up for yourself when someone tried to take advantage of your generosity? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe to hear more life lessons.